Hello, welcome to Athabasca Pottery Club, and today we're going to be building a pinch pot stump. So this piece of clay has already been wedged. We're just going to take it, pat it down. With pinch pots, all you're really doing is pinching. Your thumb goes in and you start hollowing it out. Doesn't look very stump-like yet, but... And it's best to build on a platform so it's easier to bring it up later. Okay, I'm actually going to save some of this for decorations and detailing later. Just going to take a chunk of that off. Should be enough. I'm going to save it in a plastic bag so it can't dry out. You're going to want to watch how thick your base is. You don't want to punch your fingers through, but neither do you want it to be too much thicker than your walls. Otherwise it might crack as it dries, being too uneven. This one's pretty good. This is just a stump. You can do lots of other things with pinch projects. They never look very good when they start out. If you need to bring it in closer, you bring in your fingers together and you kind of push everything in so it's nice and tight. And it is clay, so it will become more compact. And that keeps you from getting the cabbage shape, so you can keep it nice and circular, assuming you really want a circular log. And just because details are always important, you can also pull bits down to form little rootlets, which also help make it look a little bit more realistic. Don't make them too big as they could crack. Just try to make sure you can see it a little bit better. If you can see it, just little rootlets going around. Bring it up a little bit higher because my walls are still a little bit too thick. I don't want it. And just because I like to be able to hang things, I'm going to steal a little bit more off this. As you can see, this one wall here is a lot thicker than this. You don't want things this uneven in pottery because they can crack. As you'll notice at the inside, I'm not sure you can see that, but you can always use tools to get in and do your dirty work for you. So rods, anything you have, just to pound it a little bit flatter, get it a little bit smoother. I'm actually going to dip it in some water here so it's a little slipperier. So it makes the inside also nice and smooth. There's better tools than this out there for this, but it's what I have. And just because your pencil holders usually have things like elastics around them, I like adding little decorations like branches. So I'm just going to put a little bit of a hole here for them. Okay. Got our thing there. It's roughed up. And get your bit of slip. You're going to tack it into that hole and make sure it's well attached. I'm just keeping it close, doesn't stick out too far and catch on things and maybe break when the person has it. The nice thing about stumps is that you almost never see a uniform stump. So little bits of odds and ends that are a little bit different are always nice. You can use a lot of different things to texture it. This is just a simple one, little scraper. Go all the way down by the little feet. Once again, most of these burrs will just rub off when they're dry. So when we go for our cleaning, it'll be easier. And the way that you rub this along the edges determines how it's going to come out. So you go this way, it's going to pull in. If you go from the inside up, it's going to pull out. If I do it this way, I can also straighten it up later and just clean off the edges, and it's still not going to look too bad. If they get clogged up, just wipe them clean. You continue a little bit further down, give it some texturing. I am going to leave the bottom smooth though in case a pen explodes and leaks, so it's easier to clean for the person. Now I could do things like different whorls and stuff, maybe stick a couple of squirrels or a couple of birds in there, some fake acorns and stuff. There's a lot you can do to decorate this. This is just a very basic one to give you an idea of how to make a pinch pot. I'm just using this because I have it here. You can use almost anything to pattern it up. The sky's pretty much the limit. And with the branch, we're actually going to go with the grain of the wood as if it were a real piece of a tree. And that will hide a lot of the earlier imperfections. You can even continue it up from the base if you like. And with the ends of the branches, if you just add a bunch of little dots at the end, it looks as if it got busted off. And you can kind of do a little. Or you can leave it a little more pointed and add some leaves. It's completely up to what your preferences are. No, not sure if you can see this. So the inside can still use a little bit more cleaning up. you have a wetter tool, it will slide easier over the clay when it comes to things like smoothing. But if you want a really rough texture, use a drier one, and that'll help as well. And I can see I got that one low spot in there that doesn't want to behave. And of course, as I mentioned, if I test in here, you'll notice that the base is much wider. So I do have to bring this in a little bit more or else trim it up a bit. But simply going around with this should take care of most of that issue. Okay. And of course, making the knuckles rubbed, so I have a little bit more roughening up to do along the edges. So the inside is a bit better. It's not the best. I can still work on it a little bit more before cleaning it up here. And some tools can even just help you cut little slivers out if they're not behaving. There we go. Okay, that's better. Oh, I still got some more over here. So instead of just pushing it around, you always can just cut little bits out, reapply them later if you prefer. Or if you have a really low spot like this one in here just doesn't want to be filled, you can push it in as well. Usually use slip. In this case, the bottom of the clay here is wet, and if I didn't have to. And that is a lot better if you can see it. See, it's pretty much well even on both sides. There's no really, really thick spots that might crack. So that's your basic pinch pot. But it's just a basic pinch pot. I think we're going to add some decorations. And I got some little handy molds here. Like you can hand build little acorns. There's not much to acorns. You start with an oval. You pinch one end down. Let's leave a little tiny cap like you'd see in the movies. Tools are your friends. Tools can do lots for you. Pinch off a little bit more there. So when it comes to acorns, it's really the coloring that gives it away for what it is. I'm just going to hatch the top a little bit. Not the best acorn out there, but okay. A little bit of slip. And it's going to rest right there. Keep in mind that every decoration you add on will be a lot of fun when you come to clean and paint, but don't let that get in the way. Sometimes it's the small details that make the piece. I'm going to reclaim some of the clay we left here earlier. And maple leaves don't really go with this one, I don't think. So let's try a fern. I think it's a fern. So you can see it. You can also make your own leaves from scratch, just little teardrops with a couple of veins in them, and those look quite sharp as well. Doesn't look too bad there. Some more slip. I'm going to score the back of this one because it is kind of slippery. I'm adding a little bit of magic water to this as well, just make it a little bit more liquidy to stick a bit better on the rough surface. You can see that. Looks cute. And maybe we need a rock. There's always rocks around stumps, right? Just a little oval and lots of little spots that will resemble speckles in it later. Can I say a rock? We're going to call it a rock. Just going to nestle him right in here. Another fun one that I'll show you, but I'm not going to attach, is your mushrooms. Especially the stumps, because you usually have your mushrooms. Just get your stem, and you get your little cap. Look in there, little pinch pot, little dough ball, thumb in, curve it. And there would be your, oh, it's a little bit big. Your sausagey stem, your cap. You use a little bit of slip and serrations, but that would be your mushroom if you chose to attach it to different spots in the tree. I'm not going to because that's not the look I'm going for here. But it is a possibility. You can keep decorating, make it elaborate, make it more simple. Add numerous branches, make it deeper. Basically whatever you want, but that is it in a nutshell for how to make a pinch pot stump. And we're going to start cleaning our pinch pot stump. So this was dried for 2 weeks. The first week it was too wet, and this week it seems to have dried a little more than anticipated. As you can see, all these sharp edges do need to be cleaned off, otherwise they're going to be very sharp and like razor blades. So just trying to use my hand right now to clean as much of this off as I can without damaging some of the other stuff. Normally you clean it a little earlier than this so the pieces come off, but it's not quite so hard. Okay, it's still fairly rough, but I got rid of the worst of it here. But yeah, something this dry and this rough is almost impossible to get all the sharp edges off just with your fingers or a tool alone. So we are going to... So normally if it's not quite as hard, the back of a dry sponge will work very well to clean it off. As you can see, it's still getting some off. But as dry as this is, what we really need is the damp side of the sponge to just smooth the edges off of everything. As you can see, it's already much less sharp just to the hands. If you really wanted to try and do a better job, you could put it in a bag with a piece of damp newspaper and it would probably rehydrate a bit, but it takes a lot to rehydrate something at this point when it's this dry. Not sure why it dried so fast. Sometimes it just does. Once again, when you're doing details, don't go too hard because you actually will smooth out the details. You don't want to lose all the nice stuff we put there, so. Your worst part's going to be these edges the way we kind of pointed them. I was hoping that I'd catch it at the medium stage so I could easily get rid of them, but it was not to be apparently. If you want, you can use some of the tools to just carve bits off, re-put some lines in. It'll also break a bunch of these little hard pieces off. And the inside is pretty rough here. Not sure if you guys can see it, but so I am doing a lot of smoothing there. Last thing we want is for somebody to reach inside for something like a candy or a pen and cut themselves wide open. Make sure you get these little grooves as well. Your sponge doesn't get in very easily. She may end up using a tool to get into like some of these little tiny places. Oh, I got a bunch in there. Make sure these edges here aren't too sharp. If you run your finger over it and you feel a sharp or a rough edge, that means it's going to be too sharp when it's fired. Just take a sponge, dampen it down. As you can see, when I spun the sponge over, it did remove some of these lines here. So you can just go back in and re-add the lines if you want the hatching back in. When it is this dry, it is hard to scratch lines in. If you dampen either your tool tip or the piece of clay, it will soften it. Make it a little bit easier too. So there we go. All the sharp edges are off. I'm going to carve my Athabasca pottery and my initials here in a few seconds so people, when it comes out of the kiln, we know whose it is. And that, it's kind of dirty there, but it's your pinch pot stump.